Welcome to the deep dive. We take critical sources, articles, research, basically a whole stack of information, and we try to pull out the most important insights for you.
Giving you that shortcut to getting really informed on complex topics.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into the Gaza crisis. It's incredibly complex political, personal, humanitarian dynamics all tangled together.
It really is.
Our mission is to unpack the sources we've gathered, and honestly, some of the findings might really shift your perspective.
It's definitely a challenging subject, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But understanding the core facts, the implications, it feels more vital than ever right now. So we'll be looking at, the realities on the ground, the humanitarian side, which is just catastrophic, but also the global response.
And even, as the sources suggest, some very specific, maybe personal motivations behind it all.
Precisely. We'll try to connect those dots, not just what's happening, but maybe get closer to why it matters, particularly to you listening.
Okay, let's jump right in that. The situation on the ground. Our sources, they paint a really stark picture of Israel's military campaign there.
Stark is the right word.
They describe Israel moving towards what looks like a full occupation of Gaza.
And that's just escalating an already catastrophic humanitarian crisis. The scale of it, according to these documents, is hard to grasp.
Yeah, the sources talk about critical shortages, food, water, medical supplies.
And they specifically mention starvation. Starvation affecting children, the elderly. I mean, that's a truly dire detail highlighted here.
It really is.
And if you connect that to the destruction, the sources state over 90% of Gaza's homes are damaged or just gone.
9%. That's almost total devastation.
It forces civilians into these overcrowded tent zones, right? But the sources say even those zones, they remain under attack.
It's hard to imagine. And that level of human cost, the reported strategic goals, that obviously draws international attention.
Absolutely.
So how are global powers and maybe public opinion reacting? What do the sources say?
Well, it's interesting. One thing that stands out in these reports is how several countries seem to be shifting their stance.
Oh, like who?
Canada, the UK, Australia, France. They're reportedly getting ready to officially recognize Palestine soon, apparently, at the upcoming UN summit.
That's significant.
It is, and it doesn't come out of nowhere. There's been longstanding international condemnation of Israeli settlement expansion in the West Bank.
Right, that's been going on for years.
Exactly. And these sources suggest the current actions in Gaza are increasingly being seen by many as, another step towards full annexation.
So these potential recognitions, they're a response to that perception.
It seems that way, based on the analysis in these documents. And it links into another point. They raise a really significant shift in worldwide public opinion against Israel's actions, especially, the sources note, among younger Americans. That demographic shift is quite pronounced in the polling data presented.
That's a key point. Which brings us to something else the sources delve into, something that might surprise some listeners. Netanyahu's personal and political motivations.
Yeah, this part of the analysis is quite direct.
The sources suggest these personal factors are actually a major driver in keeping the conflict going.
It's presented as a direct link. First, his political survival. His coalition, according to these reports, leans heavily on far-right parties.
And they demand the war continues.
That's what the sources state is crucial for him staying in power. But then there's more. He's facing pretty serious corruption charges, bribery, fraud.
Right, those trials have been ongoing.
And the sources argue that prolonging the war essentially delays his legal accountability. It pushes those trials down the road.
A way to stay out of court, essentially.
That's the implication drawn. And then there's the issue of war crimes charges. The International Court of Justice has already issued warrants
Against him and others, yeah.
for atrocities in Gaza. The sources posit that ending the war could risk exposing even more evidence, making those cases stronger.
Wow. So political survival, delaying corruption trials, and avoiding further war crimes evidence. That's a potent mix of alleged motivations.
It paints a picture of immense personal stakes influencing geopolitical events, according to this analysis.
But how does this alleged motivation play out on the ground, especially with something as critical as humanitarian aid? Are these things connected in the sources?
They draw a direct line. The reports detail some, frankly, alarming things about aid delivery.
Such as?
Well, they report that established aid mechanisms, the ones run by, experienced international groups, have been replaced.
Replaced with what?
With a joint venture called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. But the staffing is what's raising red flags in these reports.
Okay.
It's reportedly staffed by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, and, get this, U.S. mercenaries. not professional aid workers.
Mercenaries delivering aid? That sounds wrong.
It's highly irregular, to say the least, and the testimonies cited are disturbing. Some sources, including accounts attributed to U.S. military veterans, describe these aid sites as killing zones.
Killing zones. At aid distribution points.
That's the term used in the reports. They describe starving civilians trying to get food being met with flash grenades, pepper spray, even live fire.
That's horrific.
The sources describe indiscriminate targeting of civilians just trying to access basic necessities. It's a catastrophic picture of aid delivery.
Which inevitably brings us back to the U.S. role in all this, the political dynamics there.
Right, a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Because despite everything we've discussed, the global opinion shift, the humanitarian crisis described, our sources point to a kind of disconnect in the U.S.
A major disconnect between public sentiment, which we saw shifting, and official political action.
How so?
Well, the sources highlight this near-unanimous support for Israel among U.S. politicians, even as segments of the public, especially younger people, are increasingly critical.
And why is that? What explanation do the sources offer?
A big factor cited repeatedly is the influence of lobbying groups. AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, is mentioned specifically as being very powerful.
Lobbying influence shaping policy, despite public opinion.
That's the dynamic described. The sources even give concrete examples, alleged threats against countries like Ireland, for instance, for considering boycotts against Israel.
Threats.
That's what's reported. And other examples, too, like policies that reportedly condition U.S. disaster relief aid on cooperation with Israeli companies. It suggests a very entrenched system.
So putting all these pieces together, this deep dive, drawing from all these sources, it really presents a comprehensive, if deeply troubling view.
It does.
The narrative emerging from these sources isn't really one of simple self-defense. It's framed more as a deliberate strategy, possibly aiming for ethnic cleansing and annexation.
That's the stark interpretation presented in some of the analyses, yes.
And underpinning it, according to these reports, are Netanyahu's personal and political interests driving the conflict forward despite global outrage and the immense human cost.
And tying it back to the international picture, you see this potential shift with countries considering recognizing Palestine that could change global dynamics. But the sources consistently point back to the U.S. as the key enabler. Their support, politically, militarily, financially, is presented as the factor allowing this to continue on its current course.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a lot to think about.
Indeed. It leaves us with a really critical question, I think. Given this complex interplay, the humanitarian disaster, the growing international condemnation, those deeply personal political motives we discussed, how might this shifting global recognition of Palestine actually impact the actions of key enablers, like the U.S., moving forward?
And what does that then mean for the future of aid delivery and ultimately for the lives of ordinary people caught in the middle of this conflict?
Exactly. That's the question these sources compel us to ask.